Hello and welcome to the Sunday Shale Show. My name is Mike Chadsey and today I'm joined by Brian Hickman from the Ohio Oil and Gas Association. Brian, thanks for being here today.
No problem, Mike. Glad to be here.
Thank you. Hey, quick question. I want to start diving in here to some of the legislation that we're hearing so much about down at the State House. And I know you're very active in that process. What are some of the key pieces of legislation that are down, either at the House or the Senate, that are talked about the industry?
First one, probably the largest one that's going on right now is the biennium budget bill, which is House Bill 59.
House Bill 59, okay.
There are several provisions affecting the oil and gas industry included in that piece of legislation. The one that a lot of people have heard the most about would be the increase to the severance tax.
Okay.
So as introduced, the current version of the bill has that severance tax on a horizontal well, essentially at 1.5% for the first year and then 4% for all the additional years of production.
Okay.
But that's probably the largest debate that everyone's hearing downtown. The budget bill also includes several provisions impacting brine disposal, impacting technologically enhanced naturally occurring radioactive materials, and other changes to Ohio oil and gas law. But those being probably the two biggest provisions, well records, other various stuff included in that bill.
And that's a bill that's sort of drafted, written by the governor's office, and then makes its way to its House, and that's where it is in the process right now. Where does it go to from there?
House Bill 59, as introduced, reflects Governor Kasich's executive budget proposal.
Okay.
So that is before the House Finance and Appropriations Committee. That committee has recently, as of this week, stopped deliberation in their subcommittee process. So the subcommittees have heard the bill. They've kind of taken different aspects, looked at them, and now they're going to have full hearings in front of the full Finance Committee beginning next week.
And then from there it moves over to the Senate?
Yes. What they'll
process repeats itself? Or?
Yes. What they'll do is the House will, most likely what happens in most budget bills, they'll go ahead, they'll make amendments and changes to the proposal. It will get a floor vote in front of the full House after it leaves committee, and then goes over to the Senate to essentially the same mirror process. So.
Okay. And then at one point they come together, or what does it happen after it leaves the Senate?
Traditionally what happens after it leaves the Senate, usually there is a conference committee after it passes the Senate, because the House bill and the Senate bill usually will be a little different, and what they'll do is they'll take that to a conference committee where they'll have members of the Senate and members of the House work on the bill to come up with a final proposal, which will be the final budget bill for the state of Ohio.
Got it. And then it makes its way back to the governor for his signature on that?
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Well, other than House Bill 59, are there other pieces of legislation currently down at the Ohio State House that are being debated or introduced that are regarding the oil and gas industry?
There are two bills that, off the top of my head, I can think about. The first bill that some people may have heard about is Senate Bill 46.
46, okay.
And that is legislation written by Senator Joe Schiavone and Senator Frank LaRose.
Okay.
And that would deal with increasing penalties for illegal brine disposal. Generally speaking, it would increase, and take into consideration this is above and beyond what's already currently in law, but it would increase the term and the monetary penalties paid and make it a felony as far as any disposal of brine.
Okay. Okay.
So you have that bill, and there's also a proposal.
So that's in the Senate?
Correct. That's in the Senate. It has not been had a committee hearing in front of the Senate. I believe it's in the Energy Committee.
Okay.
So it has not kind of begun the process. Just been introduced and referred to the committee.
Got it. Okay.
There's also
there was one more.
Yeah, Senate Bill 17.
17.
And that's one by Senator Mike Skindell. There's companion legislation in the House. I believe that is House Bill 42 by Representative Robert Hagan.
Okay.
But that is, everyone's hearing a lot about hydraulic fracturing and disclosure, but that proposal would be what I'd call full disclosure at the time of the oil and gas permit. So when you would go and permit your oil and gas well, you would have to disclose every chemical, every constituent to be used on that well site. A little difficult. You don't know exactly what you're trying to use until you're actually in the producing formation. But that's a bill that also has been just recently introduced. and has been sent to its respective energy committee.
Okay, and this is on top of everything from a couple years ago, Senate Bill 315, and on top of that was Senate Bill 165.
Yes.
So there seems to be an ongoing or continuing conversation about this industry in Columbus.
Yes, definitely, and you make a very good point. Senate Bill 165 was passed in 2010. Substantial upgrades to Ohio oil and gas law, and then Senate Bill 315 kind of added on to that tradition. So.
Okay, so the three pieces that you just talked about, are those making changes to those two pieces of legislation, or is this stuff on top of that?
Yeah, it would be on top of what Ohio oil and gas law already says.
Already has in place?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything happening at the federal level that you can share with us about?
A lot of my time is taken up at the state level.
State level, okay.
But there are some things in regards to tax provisions at the federal level. A lot of people like to say that the oil and gas industry has loopholes, but if you go back and look at a lot of those traditional intangible drilling costs, commonly referred to as IDCs, you look at some of those tax, it's more of a fair tax treatment. Okay. The producer still pays the tax, but it's a better way to look at those investments and treat that investment revenue in a fairer manner than just making that tax burden be in the first year.
Right off top.
Kind of similar to some other businesses.
Sure, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And anything that the state does, the state laws, whether it's oil and gas related or not, cannot be in conflict with what federal law. But now it can be more stringent on top, but it can't be in conflict with federal law.
Correct.
Is any of those pieces of legislation you talked about in conflict with anything at the federal level, or just going to be?
Yeah, not that I'm aware of. Okay. There's some additional authority in certain areas that the state is asking for in House Bill 59, the budget bill. Okay. But generally speaking, there's nothing that I'm aware of that conflicts with federal laws. Okay.
Anything new you think, other than those pieces of legislation, that's going to be introduced the rest of this year?
I fully expect when we take a step back and we look at the debate that's going on currently in the state of Ohio in regards to OOGA Shale and other activity going on. We fully expect more pieces of legislation to be introduced and debated. Okay. Frankly speaking, it's just a sign of the times. So I think at the association we are preparing for additional pieces of legislation to be introduced, and association is here to represent our members and definitely give some education on any piece of legislation.
Sure. Do you think some of that legislation is needed? Is it some of it just knee-jerk reaction? Is it some people that just have a different mindset? Is it a little bit of all three? Or
I think it's a little bit of everything. Okay. Again, as you pointed out, look at the way Ohio has tried to proactively look at oil and gas law. We have Senate Bill 165, we had Senate Bill 315, and those two pieces in and of itself have been major upgrades in Ohio oil and gas law. And especially 165 had been real forward-looking pieces. What are some things, not just that we can look at making Ohio oil and gas law better today, but years down the road. So it's a really solid foundation.
Just trying to stay ahead of the curve and predicting things that may happen and trying to make sure that regulation isn't trying to catch up, but it's already ahead of anything that may come.
Yes, yes.
Brian, that's all very interesting. Appreciate your insight on that. Look forward to continuing the conversation with you about things happening at the State House and on the local level. So any other final comments from the association, or about anything happening?
No, definitely want to refer people if they have any further questions. Feel free to log on to our website at www.ooga.org.
Great, Brian. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike.
For more information, visit us at eidohio.org.